Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about the best cities and the worst cities in Canada to immigrate to. We're going to talk about the 8 major cities which are always brought into discussion whenever people talk about immigration. So if you just check out this video, this should be more than enough for you to make your decision. Wherever you are right now, you can make a decision of where to immigrate. And even if you're in Canada and you're thinking to move, you're not too happy with your city, this list will be a comprehensive summary of everything that immigrants need to know about moving into different cities in Canada. We're going to look at immigration, jobs, expenses, and house prices, plus some extras. And based on that, I'm going to be making my ranking. So there's some surprising things and some things you already know, but make sure to understand all the points here and also do your research because your life depends on it. But here's what I have to tell you. Being in all the cities in Canada and researching extensively on them and having friends in almost every city, this is my list. Number 8, we're gonna start off with Montreal. So Montreal is a great city. It's highly popular all over the world. People talk about Montreal. It has a lot of culture, a lot of things to do. But it ranks number 8, the very last on our list, because it is not the ideal city for immigrants. If you don't know French, you will struggle in Montreal because a lot of shop signs are in French, a lot of people speak in French. And yes, now people are speaking more English, and there will be people willing to help you if you don't know French. They will help you with a little bit of English, but it's still the old culture where French is the predominant language, and if you don't know it, it's pretty hard to move around, it's pretty hard to survive, and job opportunities will be limited for you because they like bilingual people, and in some cases they like French over English speakers. So it's not really a good city for you if you don't know how to speak French. Now, the unemployment rate there is not as bad at 6.1%, but again, as I said, if you don't know French, your unemployment chances will be a lot more. Plus, the worst thing about this is in our list for immigrants, it doesn't offer a PNP program. So a PNP, guys, is Provincial Nominee Program. The 7 other cities on this list have a PNP, and your choice of province should highly depend on the provincial nominee program that province has, because PNP is the only way to speed up your immigration process. The next city on our list, surprisingly for many people, is Vancouver. Now, it's the second last city on this list, and that's for a lot of reasons. First of all, a lot of people say Vancouver is beautiful, and it is. Look, if you like flowers, nature, trees, huge giant trees, Vancouver is an amazing place. It has a lot of beauty in terms of that. But you know what? Vancouver was the only place on this list that I hadn't visited in my life, and I did last month. And honestly, I was disappointed. Vancouver, for the amount of people it has, it is so crowded, but it does not have big highways. The cars move mostly on the streets, and it can give you the feeling of being too congested with a lot of people around. Think of Chicago, the image that comes in your mind. Lots of people, lots of cars, very small roads. That's what I noticed, and it is pretty in terms of the environment, the flowers and everything, but there are a lot of places where there's tons of garbage and it looks like they're not being maintained. So compared to Alberta, for example, which we'll come to in a second, Alberta has a lot of trees as well and a lot of plants, but they're maintained, they are cleaned, the city is working on it. Vancouver has, again, all that greenery, but it's just all together. It doesn't look like it's being maintained that much. It has a lot of high-rise buildings, and if you're a fan of high-rise buildings, you would like Vancouver. However, again, the quality, the style of the high-rise buildings is very outdated compared to other places like Calgary or Toronto. Their buildings are amazing. They're all wavy, curvy, straight, all varieties. Vancouver kind of felt a little dull in terms of the high-rise building. So that's just my personal view. When I went there, I expected it to be amazing and beautiful, but again, it's not as many people say it is. Now, another reason why it's on the 7th ranking in my list is because of the practicability of living there. Vancouver is, I think, the second most expensive city in the world when it comes to house prices. So an average house price in Vancouver costs you a whopping $1,243,000. And if, again, you're an immigrant, you're not looking to buy a house right now, look, house prices are the same like rent prices. In any city where there's a higher price of housing, there's a higher price of rent, of course. So the rent price is crazy in Vancouver. That's why a lot of immigrants go to surrounding areas like Surrey, like Abbotsford, and it's just because Vancouver is so expensive. If you want to live there and buy a house, you need to be really rich. If you're really rich, you might like it. But mostly immigrants are starting up and they're struggling. So you probably wouldn't have a job also, even if you're super rich. Money runs out. And if you can afford millions of dollars of houses, It's great, but mostly we can't, right? And again, your rent is going to be in thousands of dollars, which again, a single person cannot afford. So what immigrants do mostly, and students what they mostly do, and even families who are really established, when they move to Vancouver, they find roommates. So there are people, there's families living, 3 families living in one house. There are students living in one apartment, like 12 students living in one apartment. So it gets really crazy, and people who do want to live alone, they're working 7 days a week. If you're working minimum wage, you are working 7 days a week, and probably you're doing multiple jobs 7 days a week. Not only the houses, the travel, when we talk about the public transportation costs, your monthly bus pass, the amount you spend in dining out, etc., all those things also make this the second most expensive city on our list. And if you talk about house prices, it's number 1. Okay, so it is pretty expensive, and it does have a good provincial nominee program. The British Columbia PNP allows workers who have a minimum 2-year work experience to apply. Now, it is a lot 2-year work experience, but it is a good option. In fact, in terms of immigration, this city ranks number 5 on our list in terms of how easy it is in one of Canada's provinces to immigrate. The 6th city in this list is going to be Winnipeg. And again, if it's a shocker why Winnipeg is on top of Vancouver, it's because we're talking about immigrants. We're not talking about people who have lots of money and who are established here in Canada. We're talking about people who want to get into Canada or who are in Canada and looking to apply for their PR. And Winnipeg ranks number 4 in terms of how easy it is to immigrate. PNP process helps lots of immigrants in Manitoba, which is why we have a very diversified community here in Winnipeg. The unemployment rate, unfortunately, is 8.4%. It is a lot, and people say Manitoba has jobs, but honestly, the unemployment rate is a lot. I see my friends and family struggle to find jobs as well, so it is not really very easy in terms of the job market out here. One thing we're very famous for, and it's not a good thing, is the winters. The winters here are minus 40 degrees Celsius when it gets really bad, and winters are for a majority of the year. We have very little spring, very little fall. It's winters and then summers. When we have summers, we cherish it because it's short-lived. Towards the end of June until I would say the start of October, we have good weather, but then it gets really cold. So people get used to it. However, some don't and they move out. So if you can't take the cold, you don't want to come here. Now, in terms of house pricing, this city is the best city in this list. The average house price in Winnipeg is $325,000. So if you're looking to buy a house, even as a new immigrant, it's very easy. Rental prices are very low as well. So affording a house or renting a house, it's simple. It's very easy. In terms of expenses, this ranks number 3 on our list. It is the 3rd best city, which means it's very affordable, and housing is affordable as well, which makes Winnipeg an ideal place in terms of how much money you can save. However, how much money can you make if you don't find a good job? That kind of puts it in a tricky spot. Number 5 on our list is Halifax. Halifax in Nova Scotia. Why I rank this higher than Winnipeg, even though Winnipeg has more job opportunities, more things to do, more facilities. Halifax is better in immigration because it is number 3 on our list, as Nova Scotia has its own PNP program. It has 4 different streams and people in multiple occupations can apply. The unemployment rate is also lower, 5.7% compared to 8.4% in Winnipeg. So with less unemployment and less population, it kind of balances out. Obviously, there are lesser jobs because it's smaller. However, unemployment is pretty good, and that means good opportunities for everybody out there. Expense-wise, Halifax is number 2 on our list, which means it's the 2nd best city in terms of expenses. When we talk about, again, bus tickets and things you can afford in terms of facilities, food, dining outside, takeout, whatever. This is a very cheap city to live in. House pricing, though, is not. So the average house price in Halifax is $468,000. Still not as bad as compared to some other contenders on this list, but it is a little bit more expensive than Winnipeg. Weather-wise, it's much better. It's more humid there, but not as cold, and it rains a lot in Halifax. Number 4, we're going to rank Edmonton. So Edmonton is a very good city in terms of being just in the middle. In this whole list, Edmonton feels like it's in the middle of everything, not too much, not too little of everything. So immigration-wise, it has the Alberta PNP, which has 2 streams, Alberta Opportunity Stream and Alberta Express Entry System, giving people a lot of chances to immigrate. In fact, in terms of the ease of immigrating to any province in Canada, Alberta has the easiest immigration. It's number 1 on this list and on any other list when we talk about immigration. If you need a quick PR, Alberta is the place to go, and Edmonton is a city in Alberta, which, again, if you live there, makes it easy for you to immigrate. Does it make it easy for you to get jobs? Most likely not. 8.8% unemployment rate. This is the highest unemployment rate in our list. So maybe job-wise, it's not the best place to be in. Immigration-wise, number 1. Expenses-wise, number 5 on this list, so not that cheap. House pricing is okay. It is $425,000 for an average house. Not that expensive, and that makes Edmonton a good, peaceful, quiet place and a simple place where you have a balance of everything. The too much, the too little, it's just in the middle of all of that. The next city on our list is Ottawa. So Ottawa is in Ontario. It's 4 hours away approximately from Toronto, so that makes it ideal for long weekends. Whenever you have a long weekend, you can go drive to Toronto or go in a bus to Toronto, visit friends, and friends can come over and visit you as well. 4.4% unemployment rate, best unemployment rate, which means there's lots of opportunities. I've been to Ottawa, really good place. There are a lot of things to do in Ottawa, and it is the capital of Canada. So this is the place where you see a lot of motorcades. You might see Justin Trudeau one day, or whoever is the next prime minister. It is ranked number 4 on expenses, so it's not very expensive. And I'm gonna rank it number 2 on immigration. So a lot of people think Ontario, which has Ottawa and Toronto, these are hard cities to get into. Not really. Once again, what is hard, what is easy? It all depends on PNP. If your province has a PNP, it means it's easy in that province. Ontario has the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, OINP, which has 3 different streams to apply for PNP. And that makes it easy for people to immigrate into Ontario, making it the second best place to immigrate and have your application process. The average cost of a house there is $529,000. For Ontario, it's really good. Honestly, in Ontario, we'll talk about Toronto later. Prices are crazy. So Ottawa is a much better affordable place in terms of the house pricing, and the weather is excellent. So the weather in Ottawa, and we're going to talk about Toronto later too. Let me just mention this right now. Ottawa and Toronto have some of the best weather in Canada. It's not that cold. It does get to -10 or even -20 sometimes. It really would get to -30 or -40, which, you know, for Canadians, it's very normal. But Ottawa, Toronto, these places in Ontario have some of the best weather conditions. Summer is not that harsh. It can get really warm, and it can even cross 40 degrees in some days, but mostly it doesn't, you know. Mostly summers and winters are pretty pleasant, so people who move into Ontario don't want to move out, mostly because of weather. And that's why we're going to rank Ottawa number 3, considering all these factors. Number 2, okay, number 2, and this is my favorite city. For me personally, it is number 1. It is Calgary, Alberta. It's beautiful to live and drive and see Calgary. There are mountains everywhere. There are houses, malls, businesses built on mountains. So you might get carsick, but it's nothing compared to the beauty you see and the people you see, the facilities you see. And right now it's the most open province in Canada. It doesn't have any lockdowns. It has no masks. It's pretty lively when you go to Calgary. Another great thing about Calgary is that just 1 or 2 hours away, if you drive, you see some of the most beautiful places in the world. Tourists internationally and locally visit these places known as Banff, Canmore, Lake Louise. These are some of the prettiest places in Canada. Wonderful natural landscape, mountains, clean water like you've never seen before. So it's a great spot for vacation. If you're living in Calgary, mostly every weekend you want to go there, these places are to die for. Really amazing places. In terms of unemployment, again, it does have a bad reputation at 7.1%. So in Calgary and Edmonton, let me tell you guys, the employment and unemployment really varies, okay? It really goes up and down because this province, Alberta, is highly dependent on oil. So whenever oil purchases go up or down, or there are changes in the pipeline plans, people's unemployment and employment rates go up and down in a crazy manner. The same thing can be said for house pricing. This province probably has the worst reputation in terms of the house pricing. The average house price in Calgary is $488,000, so it's not as expensive. However, the appreciation is low. In some years, this is the only province in Canada where house prices actually go down. So I always tell my wife, if we move to Calgary, we will probably rent and own a property in some other province because it's not a good investment for housing. So financially, it can go up and down. Once again, in terms of immigration, it is the best place in Canada. Just like Edmonton, Edmonton and Calgary are in the same province, Alberta. Alberta PNP is the easiest stream to immigrate with and make your application process much easier. Now, Calgary ranks number 6 on the expenses, so the amount of money you spend again on drinks, food, public transport, etc. However, the weird thing is Edmonton and Calgary, although they are ranked 5 and 6th respectively in terms of the expenses on my list, these provinces have only 5% tax. Most provinces have between 12 to 13% tax. So it is much cheaper to buy products in Calgary and Edmonton and services as well. However, overall, the cost of products and services is a little higher than in other places, which makes them a little unaffordable. However, if you can find a good job and you can easily afford a home in Calgary, maybe after a few years, not right away once you immigrate to Canada, it is the best place to live in. It's very enjoyable, a lot of facilities, and really good natural landscapes all around Calgary. Okay, let's go to number 1. The best place to live in Canada is, you probably know what I'm going to say, it is Toronto. So Toronto, when we say Toronto, we mean Ontario and that GTA area. Okay, a lot of people don't know this. So when you come to Canada, when you land in Toronto, there is Mississauga, there's Brampton, there's Burlington, there's Oakville, there's these cities where people usually live. Most people live in Mississauga, for example, and they will say to people that we're living in Toronto, which is not anything wrong, but it's just general understanding is Toronto, and people don't know Mississauga is actually part of the greater Toronto area. So when you live in Toronto, it's expensive. It's the second most expensive city in terms of buying a house. $1,015,750, the average cost of buying a home in Toronto. Expenses wise, it is the worst city in terms of other expenses, even more than Vancouver. When we talk about public transport, cost of groceries, etc., it is pretty expensive. It has the highest, the most expensive public transport ticket, I think the monthly pass, which is I think upwards of $150. I may be wrong, but I know it's the most expensive in Canada. Immigration-wise, it is the same thing like Ottawa. It is number 2 because they're both in Ontario, so immigration-wise, it is easy. Since it's Toronto, you know it's the center of Canada for jobs and opportunities, only 5.8% unemployment rate. But let me tell you, from personal experience, you can get a job the very next day you land in Toronto. There are lots of people offering jobs, and if I'm not talking about quality jobs, I'm talking about odd jobs. If you talk about quality jobs, anywhere in Canada, it would require time. It might require references. It even might require a specialized course if you're looking for good jobs. But for any job, odd job, or for survival, just to get started and just to begin your life in Canada, Toronto is probably the easiest place to find a job with all those industries and businesses all around. And another reason why I ranked at number 1 is because of the community. It doesn't matter if you're from the Philippines, from Thailand, from Japan, from India, from Brazil. You will find people in your community anywhere in Toronto. People in Toronto are a lot. There are millions of people in the greater Toronto area, which means you can find your friends, family, or you can make other people your friends or family, because there are just so many people. You will find people in your area, and you know, if you don't like your friends group, you can move on to another one. There are lots of people, and there's lots of support that way, especially for new immigrants who just want to make some friends and just want to have someone to talk to when they're all alone. Other than that, weather, amazing. Again, it's in Ontario, just like Ottawa, so one of the best places to experience a good, pleasant weather in Canada. It is very lively. You know, you will spend a lot of time and money on the facilities because there is just so much to do, but you will enjoy it. There is a lot of life in Toronto, and that makes it the best place in Canada to immigrate to. I hope you guys liked this list. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, share your thoughts with each other on the comment section as well. And if you like the video, please subscribe, give me a like, share with your friends, and you can spread this information to more immigrants who are looking to find a life in Canada. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.